hear what I was playing on the piano, Lane?
No, sir, I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
But that's too bad. I don't play correctly. Anyone can play correctly. I play with wonderful expression and sentimentality.
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, Lane, I see the other night 8 bottles of champagne were drunk.
8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that in a bachelor's home such as mine, the servants always drink the champagne?
It is because the bachelors have a superior quality of the champagne, sir. In married households, the champagne is rarely a first-class brand.
Good heavens, is marriage as awful as that?
I believe it is a very pleasant way to live. I have had very little experience of it up until now. I have only been married once, and that was because of a misunderstanding between myself and a young female.
Enough of your family life, Lane. Oh.
I must admit it is not a very interesting subject, sir. I hardly think of it myself at all.
Lane, your views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower class doesn't set us a good example, then what on earth is the use of the lower class?
Mr. Earnest Worthing is here, sir.
Ernest, my dear Ernest, how are you, my dear Ernest? What brings you into the city?
Pleasure. Yes, pleasure. Why else should anyone go anywhere?
Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
By the way, Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn are coming over.
Oh, how perfectly delightful.
But I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't approve of you being here.
Oh, may I ask why?
the way that you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It's almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
Oh, I am in love with Gwendolyn. I've come to the city to propose to her.
I thought you said you had come for pleasure, and I would definitely call that business.
Oh, how utterly unromantic you are, Algie.
I don't see anything romantic about proposing. Why the proposal may be accepted, it usually is. Then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I shall certainly try to forget that I am.
Well, the divorce courts were invented for people like you.
Divorces are made in heaven. You behave as if you were married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
And why do you say that?
My dear friend, Gwendolyn is my first cousin, and before I allow you to marry her, you will have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? Whatever do you mean, Cecily? I don't know anyone by the name of Cecily.
Your cigarette case?
Do you mean to tell me that you've had my cigarette case all this time since I lost it?
The case I have isn't your case at all. The cigarette case I have is a present from someone named Cecily, and you said you didn't know anyone with that name.
Well, if you must know, Cecily happens to be my aunt. Now give it back to me, Algernon.
But why does your aunt call herself Little Cecily? It said, from Little Cecily with her fondest love.
So, some aunts are tall and some aunts are not tall. Surely that doesn't matter that an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself.
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. Besides, your name isn't Jack. It's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest. It's Jack.
You have always told me your name is Ernest. I have introduced you to everyone as Earnest. When called, you answer to the name Ernest. You look like an Ernest. You are the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life.
Well, my name is Ernest in the city and Jack in the country.
Tell me the whole thing. I've always suspected you of being a Bunburyist, and now I'm quite sure you are.
Bunburyist? What on earth is a Bunburyist?
I'll reveal the meaning of that incomparable name to you as soon as you tell me why you are Ernest in the city and Jack in the country.
Oh, Very well. All right. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Now, Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle out of a respect that you could not possibly appreciate, she lives in my country estate and is overseen by her governess, Miss Prism. Well, I have always pretended to have a wicked younger brother named Earnest, who leads a life of questionable morality. And that, my dear Algie, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Modern life would be very uninteresting if it were either, and modern literature would be a complete impossibility. I was quite right when I said that you were a Bunburyist. Yes, you are one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful, wicked younger brother named Earnest, so that you can leave your country estate and come to the city of London whenever you like. I have invented a valuable, permanent invalid called Bunbury, so that I can go into the country whenever I choose.
I am not a Bunburyist at all. If Gwendolen accepts my proposal, then I am going to kill my wicked brother Ernest. Well, I need to kill Ernest anyway because Cecily has become much too interested in meeting Ernest. So, I am going to get rid of my brother Ernest, and I strongly advise that you do the same with that disabled invalid friend of yours. With that absurd name.
But if you ever get married, you'll be very happy to know a Bunbury. A man who does not know a Bunbury has a very tedious and difficult time.
Now that is nonsense. If I am lucky enough to marry Gwendolen, I certainly won't want to know your friend Bunbury.
Then your wife will want to know a Bunbury. In married life, 3 is marvelous company and 2 is none. That must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives and bill collectors ever ring the doorbell in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I can get her out of the room for 10 minutes so that you can propose to Gwendolen, can I dine with you tomorrow night?
Oh, I suppose so. If you want to.
Yes, but you have to be very serious about it. I hate people who aren't serious about food. It's so shallow of them.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you're behaving very well.
I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
Behaving and feeling are not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things really go together.
But dear me, you look smashing.
I am always smashing, aren't I, Mr. Worthing?
You are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not perfect. It would leave no room for developments, and I fully intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry you were a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Horbury. I hadn't been there since her husband's death. I never saw a woman so changed. She looks practically 20 years younger. I had some grub with Lady Horbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
Yes, I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
But her hair has changed its colour. From what source, I, of course, cannot say.
I have just had a telegram to say that my poor invalid friend Bunbury is very ill again.
Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury make up his mind of whether he is going to live or die. This shilly-shallying about the question is absurd. I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury for me to be kind enough not to have any lamps on Saturday. For I rely on you to arrange my music for me. Oh, it is my last reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation in others, particularly at the end of the social season, in which every has practically said all that I've had to say. Which in these cases was probably not much.
I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious and speaking. Now, will you kindly come with me into the next room for a moment?
Oh, charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that it means something else. And that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any other girl that I have ever met since I met you.
Yes, I am quite aware of that fact. And I often wish that you have been more demonstrative of that fact in public at any rate. You've always been irresistibly fascinating to me. And my ideal has always been to love someone whose name is Earnest. Oh, the minute Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
Do you really love me, Gwendolyn?
Passionately.
Oh, darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Earnest.
But you don't really mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest, do you?
But your name is Earnest.
Frankly, my darling, I don't much care for the name of Ernest. I don't think the name suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It has music. It produces vibrations.
Really, darling, I think there are other much nicer names. I think, Jack, for instance. A charming name.
Jack? Oh no! Well, there is very little music in the name Jack. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I've known several Jacks, and they were all unusually plain.
Gwendolyn, I must get baptized at once. I mean, we must get married at once. There's no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, surely, you know that I love you.
And I adore you. But you haven't proposed to me yet.
Oh, may I propose to you now?
Yes. Yes. And to spare you any possible disappointment, I think it only fair to tell you that I'm fully going to accept you.
Gwendolyn.
Oh, yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
Well, you know what I've got to say to you.
Oh, yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Oh, yes, yes. Of course I will, darling. How long you've been about it? I'm afraid you've had very little experience of how to propose.
Oh, my own one. I have never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. And I hope you always look at me just like that, especially when there are people around.
Ma!
Oh, Mr. Worthing! You are most indecorous.
Mama! I must beg you to retire to the other room again. Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished what? May I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing.
Pardon me? You are nothing of the kind. When you are engaged, I will inform you of the fact. And now, I have a few questions for Mr. Worthing. While I am making these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me in the carriage.
Mama!
In the carriage, Gwendolyn! Now, Mr. Worthing, I feel bound to inform you that you are not on my list of eligible young bachelors. However, I am quite ready to add your name to that list if your answers are truly what an affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I must admit I smoke.
I am glad to hear it. I believe a man should always have an occupation of some kind. I have always been of the opinion that a man who is desired to be married should either know everything or know nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
Well, I am pleased to hear it. I don't believe in anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Oh, you have a city house, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolyn could hardly be allowed to live in the country.
I own a house in Belgrave Square.
Yes. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
Oh, the unfashionable side. However, that can easily be altered.
Which? Do you mean the fashion? Or do you mean the side?
Both, if necessary. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness.
Well, the fact is, you see, Lady Bracknell, I said I had lost both my parents, but it would be closer to the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. You see, I was found.
Found?
The late Mr. Thomas Cardew found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
And where did this charitable man who had a first-class ticket for a seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, a large black leather handbag with handles on it. Oh, it was an ordinary handbag, in fact.
In what locality did this Mr. Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station.
In a cloakroom at Victoria Station?
Yes. The Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, to be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the social decencies of good family life. As for the particular location in which this handbag was found, a cloakroom at Victoria Station may be used to conceal a social indiscretion. Oh, it has probably been used for that purpose beforehand, but can hardly be recognized as an assured basis for a good position in society.
Well, then, may I ask, then, what would you advise me to do?
I would strongly advise that you make a definite effort to produce one parent of either sex before the social season is quite over.
I don't see how I could possibly do that, Lady Bracknell. I can produce that handbag for you at any moment. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
You can hardly imagine that I, or Lord Bracknell, would allow our only daughter to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning.
Here comes the bride, all dressed in white. Ra-ta-ti-ta-ta. Oh. Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you?
As far as Gwendolyn is concerned, we are engaged. But her mother... she's a monster. Oh, you don't think there's any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in about 150 years? Do you, Algie?
Wait, all women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does. That is his. By the way, did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about your being Ernest in the city and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, the truth is not quite the sort of thing that you tell a nice, sweet, refined girl like Gwendolyn.
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she is pretty, and to another woman if the first one is plain. What about your brother, your wicked brother Ernest?
Oh, my wicked brother Ernest dies. Yes, suddenly in Paris of a severe chill, and that gets rid of him.
But I thought you said that Cecily was a little too interested in your brother Ernest. Won't she feel the loss?
Cecily is not some silly romantic girl. No, she cares neither for her lessons nor her grades.
I would very much like to see Cecily.
I will take very good care to see that you never do. She is excessively pretty, and we're only just 18.
And have you told Gwendolyn yet that you have an excessively pretty ward who's only just 18?
Ha 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 ha! Now Cecily and Gwendolyn are quite certain to become perfectly great friends, while I wager that half hour after they meet they will be calling each other sister.
Women only call each other sister after they've called each other a lot of other things first.
Miss Fairfax?
My darling Gwendolyn!
Oh, we may never be married. Whatever influence I ever had over Mama, I lost at the age of 3. Although I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing that Mama can possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Oh, my dear Gwendolyn!
Oh, the story of your romantic origins, as related to me by Mama with her unpleasant comments, has stirred me. I have your city dress. What is your dress in a country?
Aha! Let me listen.
The Manor House, Walton, Hertfordshire. Oh, you will let me walk you out to your carriage? Won't you, darling?
Certainly.
Lane, I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going bunburying.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Lane, you are a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
Oh, that Gwendolyn, oh, the only girl that I have ever cared for. What on earth are you so amused about, Algie?
Oh, I'm just a little anxious about poor Bunbury, that's all.
If you aren't careful, that friend Bunbury of yours will get you into a very serious scrape one day.
I love scrapes. They're the only thing that are never serious.
That is nonsense. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
Cecily? Cecily, your German grammar book is on the table.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a pretty language. I know that I look perfectly unattractive after my German lesson.
Cecily, you know how anxious Mr. Worthing, your guardian, is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he is so serious I think he cannot be quite well.
I know no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that is why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, you must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
Oh, I wish Uncle Jack would allow his unfortunate young man, his brother, to come here to the country sometime. I'm sure you would have a very good influence over him, Miss Prism.
I'm not sure that even I could produce any effect on a character like him. Indeed, I'm not sure I would desire to. I am not in favour of this modern mania of turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. Cecily, you must put away your diary. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
Oh, I keep a diary in order to remember the wonderful secrets of my life.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry with us.
Yes, but my diary usually talks about all the things that have never happened to me and couldn't possibly happen.
Well, I wrote a novel myself.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I do not like novels that end happily. They depress me so much. Was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was lost or mislaid. To your work, child.
Oh, but I see dear Reverend Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Oh, Reverend Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are well, I trust.
Oh, Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to take a walk with you.
Cecily, I have not mentioned anything of a headache.
No, dear Miss Prism. I know that, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, yes, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when the Reverend came in.
I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's student, I would hang upon her very lips. I spoke metaphorically, of course. Mr. Worthing has not returned from the city yet. He is not one of those people whose sole aim is their enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man, his wicked brother Earnest, seems to be.
I think, dear Reverend, I will have a stroll with you. I find I have a headache after all, and a walk might do it good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism. With pleasure.
Cecily, you must read your lessons in my absence.
Yes, Miss Prism. Yes, bye. Bye-bye. Oh, German. Yuck. Horrid. Horrid German. Oh.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just arrived from the train station.
Mr. Ernest Worthing just arrived from the train station. Oh, Mr. Ernest Worthing, Uncle Jack's naughty brother.
He said he wanted to insist to speak with you privately for a moment.
Tell Mr. Ernest Worthing to come here.
Yes, miss.
Oh, I've never met any really wicked person before. Oh, I'm so afraid he will look just like everyone else.
Hello, little cousin Cecily.
And you are Uncle Jack's brother, my wicked cousin Ernest?
Oh, I'm not really wicked at all, cousin Cecily.
If you are not, then you've certainly been deceiving us all. I hope you're not pretending to be wicked and really being good all this time. That would be hypocrisy.
Of course, I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear of it. It must have been very pleasant.
But it is much more pleasant being here with you.
I know Uncle Jack wants to speak to you about your immigrating.
About my what?
You're immigrating? He's gone up to London to buy your outfit.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think you will need neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? Oh, I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, or Australia.
This is why I want you to reform me, Cousin Cecily.
I'm afraid I have no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already. You are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily.
I don't think it can be right for you to talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
Then Miss Prism is a nearsighted lady.
Miss Prism says all good looks are a trap.
They are a trap any sensible man would like to be caught in.
Oh, I wouldn't care to catch a sensible man. I wouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You are too much alone, dear Reverend. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand. A womanthrope, never. By persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. The very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is not a man equally as attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive. Except to his wife.
And often, not even to her.
Oh, Mr. Worthing, your funeral clothes.
Oh, Mr. Worthing.
This is indeed a surprise. We were not expecting you until Monday.
Dear Mr. Worthing, I trust your funeral clothes are not for something terrible.
My brother.
More painful debts and extravagances?
Still leading his life of pleasure?
Dead.
Your brother Ernest is dead?
Quite dead.
Oh, what a lesson for him. I hope he will learn from it.
Oh, poor Ernest. He had many faults, but it is a sad blow.
Were you with him in the end?
No. He died in Paris.
Will the funeral take place here?
No. He wanted to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? Huh. I fear that hardly points to any very serious state of mind in the end.
Dear Reverend Chasuble, you do know how to baptize, right?
Your brother, I believe, was unmarried, was he not?
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
The baptism is not for any child, dear Reverend. I would like to be baptized myself. This afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
The sprinkling, indeed immersion of adults, is a perfectly reverent practice.
Immersion?
Now, Mr. Worthing, don't get upset. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, or indeed, I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. And now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer into this house of sorrow. What seems to us as bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to be a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! What horrid clothes you've got on! I've got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Ha! Your brother!
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
This is nonsense. I haven't got a brother. Ernest is dead. In Paris.
Don't say that. However badly he may have behaved in the past, he's still your brother.
Oh, this is perfectly absurd.
Hello, Jack.
Good heavens.
Brother Jack, I have come from London to tell you that I am very sorry about all the trouble I've caused you, and I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack?
I think his coming here is absurd. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack! Don't be nice. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor, disabled, invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, whom he goes to visit so often. And surely there must be good in one who leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, he's been talking to you about his friend Bunbury, has he?
It is pleasant, is it not, to see such a perfect reconciliation.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgments, my dear Reverend.
Oh, I feel very happy. And now to my diary.
You young scoundrel, Algie! You must get out of this place as soon as possible. I won't allow any of your Bunburying here.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
Oh, you are not to talk about Miss Cardew like that. You must take the 4:45 train back to London. Yes, I do hope you have had a pleasant journey. This Bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you here.
I think it has been a great success. I am in love with Cecily.
Oh, Ernest, I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you by saying that you are the visual personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you credit, Ernest. If you allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to see it. May I?
Oh, no. You see, it is simply a very young girl's thoughts, and therefore it is meant for publication. When it comes out, I hope you will buy a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. Oh, I'm ready for more. Don't cough, Ernest. I don't know how to spell cough.
Cecily, ever since I first saw your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, and hopelessly.
And hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
I love you. You will marry me, won't you?
Why, of course, you silly boy. We have been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
It will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, whose name was Ernest. Oh, it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling.
On the 14th of February, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or the other. So I finally accepted you, and this next day I bought this little ring in your name, and I promised you always to wear it.
Did I give that to you? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you have wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given for you leading such a bad life. Oh, and over there is the boxes in which I keep all of your dear letters.
My letters? But my own sweet Cecily, I have never written you any letters.
I was forced to write your letters for you. I always wrote 3 times a week. And sometimes more often.
Oh, do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh no, I couldn't possibly. They'd make you far too conceited. You must not laugh at me, darling, but it had always been the girliest dream of mine to love someone whose name was Ernest.
But my dear child, do you mean to say that you could not love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
Ooh, but I don't like the name of Algernon.
Well, my own sweet little loving darling, if my name was Algie, you could not love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear I would not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your reverend here is, I presume, thoroughly practiced in all the rites and rituals of the church?
Yes?
I must see him at once about an important baptism. I mean, on business. I just need to go for half an hour.
Since we've been engaged since February, and I've only just met you today for the first time today, could you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
And Miss Fairfax has just arrived for Mr. Worthing on very important business, she says.
Ask her to come in, and you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax. I suppose she is one of the elderly, good women that Uncle Jack associates with in his philanthropic work in London. Oh, here she is. Pray, let me introduce myself. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. Something tells me that we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong. Mm-hmm.
How nice of you to like me so much after we've known each other such a comparatively short time.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
If you wish.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
Oh, if you wish.
Then it is all quite settled. Cecily, Mama, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. So, do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
How? Whoa! Oh! Are you here on a short visit?
Oh no, I live here.
Oh, really? Your mother of advanced years lives here with you?
Oh no, I have no mother. My guardian, with the help of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Huh. Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh, he has a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. Cecily, I am very fond of you. I've liked you ever since I met you. But now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I wish you were just a little older and not quite so alluring in your looks. In fact, if I may speak candidly...
Oh, please do. When I think someone has something unpleasant to say, one should always speak quite candidly.
Well then, I wish you were fully 42 years old and more than usually unattractive for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature, but...
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. Oh, it is his brother, his elder brother.
Oh, Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship such as ours. But you are quite sure it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian?
Quite sure. In fact, very soon, I am going to become Mr. Ernest Worthing's guardian.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, do Miss Gwendolyn. Ernest and I are engaged to be married.
Oh, my darling Cecily. I think there might be some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me.
Oh, I'm afraid you must be under some misunderstanding. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
Oh, it is certainly very curious because he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you care to verify, do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on a train. I am very sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid that I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it caused you any mental or any physical anguish. But since Ernest proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind.
If the poor boy has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once and with a firm hand.
Oh, whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have gotten into, well, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Oh, do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? Why, this is no time to wear the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
And I'm glad to say that I've never seen a spade. It is obvious that the social spheres have been widely different, and I'm known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of another girl, why, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have more similar visits to make in this neighborhood.
Ernest! Oh, my own Ernest!
Oh, my own dear Gwendolyn.
Wait. May I ask if you're engaged to be married to this young lady?
To dear little Cecily. Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Oh, thank you.
I knew there must be some misunderstanding, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whom you are speaking to is my dear guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
Why, this is Uncle Jack.
Oh, Jack? Oh!
Oh, here is Ernest.
My own love.
Wait a moment, Ernest. Are you engaged to this young lady?
Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you.
I felt there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. This gentleman is Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it. I would like to, but I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
It has been John or Jack for years.
Oh, a gross deception has been done to both of us.
Oh, my poor wronged Cecily.
Oh, my sweet wrong Gwendolyn. No.
Oh, you will call me sister?
There's just one question.
Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to your brother Ernest, so it is a matter of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is right now.
I have no brother Ernest!
I'm afraid it is quite clear that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone. Let us go into the house, Cecily.
Yes, I follow you. Oh, men are such cowards.
The fact there are two men do not follow us at once shows they have some shame left.
Now they are approaching. Well, that's very forward of them. Mr. Moncrief, why were you pretending to be my guardian, Uncle Jack's brother?
In order to meet you.
Well, that seems to be a very satisfactory explanation.
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't. But that does not affect the beauty of his answer.
Mr. Worthing, did you pretend to have a brother in order to go to the city London to see me as often as possible?
Was there ever any doubt?
Oh, I have my gravest doubts, but I intend to crush them. Cecily, do you think we should forgive them?
Oh, yes. I mean no. Let us both speak at the same time.
Oh, but which of us should tell them?
Could we not both speak at the same time?
Oh, an excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as others.
Your Christian names are still an insurmountable barrier. That's all.
We are going to be baptized this afternoon.
Darling!
Lady Bracknell.
Lady Bracknell, I am engaged to be married to Gwendolyn.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. Algernon, my nephew, is this where your invalid friend Mr. Banbury resides?
Bunbury is dead.
What did he die of?
He was exploded.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary charge?
my dear Aunt Augusta, what I mean is he was found out. I mean, the doctors found out that Bunbury could not live, so Bunbury died.
Well, I'm glad that he has made up his mind at last, and acted under proper medical advice. And who is that sweet young thing next to you, Algernon?
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
The number of engagements that are going on seems to me to be considerably above the proper average. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London?
I have Miss Cardew's birth certificate, her certificate of baptism, certificates for vaccination for both whooping cough and measles, and both in the English and the German varieties.
Huh? A life crowded with incidents, though perhaps too exciting for a young girl. And tell me, does Miss Cardew have any little fortune?
Oh, about £130,000. Now, goodbye, Lady Bracknell.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000, you say? Cecily, sweet girl, come here.
Yes, Yes, of course, Lady Bracknell.
Oh, turn around. The side view is what I want.
Oh, like this.
Yes, you see, there are distinct social possibilities held within her profile. Oh, the chin a little higher, dear.
Oh, this high?
Higher, dear.
Oh, this high.
Higher, dear.
Oh, this high.
Oh, yes. Oh, perfection. Ah, yes. You see, style largely depends on the way that the chin is worn. It is worn very high, very there. Algernon.
Cecily is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world, and I don't care twopence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society. Only those who can't get into it do that. And when I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of my own, but I hardly allowed that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I'm not in favour of long engagements. They give one another the chance of finding out each other's character before marriage, which I never think is advisable.
This engagement is out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she becomes of age. And I decline to give my consent.
Cecily, sweet child, how old are you?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always say I'm 21 when I go to evening parties.
In her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not become of age until she is 35.
35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women who've remained 35 for years.
Algie, could you wait for me until I am 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Oh, but I can't wait all that time. Oh, I hate waiting 5 minutes for anybody.
As Miss Cardew states that she cannot wait until she is 35, a remark which I am bound to say shows an impatient nature. I would beg of you, Mr. Worthing, reconsider.
Oh, but my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is all in your hands. The moment you consent to my marriage to Gwendolen, I will most gladly allow your nephew to marry my ward.
That is out of the question.
Oh, then a passionate celibacy is all that any of us can look forward to.
Everything is quite ready for the baptisms.
The baptisms? Is that not somewhat premature?
Both of these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptisms.
Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized.
Oh, am I to understand then that there are to be no baptisms this afternoon? Well, I have just been informed that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I am on my way to join her.
Is this Miss Prism at all connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies, and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I beg your pardon. I am a celibate, madam.
I must see her at once.
She approaches.
I was told you were waiting for me in the vestry, my dear Reverend.
Prism!
Oh!
Prism? Where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house in charge of a baby carriage which contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, the baby carriage was found standing by itself at midnight. But the baby was not there. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of a most revolting sentimentality. Prism, where is that baby?
No. Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. In the morning of the day you mentioned, I prepared the baby carriage, as usual, to take the baby out for a stroll. I also had with me a somewhat old, large leather handbag in which I intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written in a moment of mental distraction, for which I can never forgive myself. I placed the manuscript in the baby carriage, and I placed the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit that handbag, Miss Prism?
In the coat room of one of the larger railway stations of London.
In what railway station?
Victoria. The Brighton line.
Oh, I must go to my room. Gwendolyn, wait for me here.
I will wait for you all my life, if you're not too long.
I need hardly tell you that in families of high position, strange coincidences are not supposed to happen.
Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your Uncle Jack has a very emotional nature.
I wish he would arrive at some conclusion.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Is this the handbag, Miss Prism? There, that I've just placed on the table. The happiness of more than one person relies on your answer.
Yes, my initials are on it, see? I had forgotten that in an extravagant mood I had them placed there on my bag. I am delighted to have it restored to me.
More than just that the handbag is restored to you, Miss Prism. I was the baby that you placed inside it.
You?
Yes. Mother!
Oh, Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Unmarried? Oh, Mother! I forgive you.
No, not me. Lady Bracknell is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but could you kindly inform me of who I am?
You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently you are Algernon's older brother.
I'm Algy's brother? Then I do have a brother after all.
My own! But what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you've become somebody else?
Good heavens, I'd almost forgotten that fact. Your decision on my name being Earnest is irrevocable, I presume?
I never change, except in my affections.
Oh, what a noble nature you have, Gwendolyn.
Aunt Augusta, at the time when Miss Prism had placed me in that handbag, had I been baptized already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including baptism, had been lavished on you by your fond and doting parents.
Yes, but what name was I given? Oh, let me know the worst.
Well, being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father, the general.
Yes, but what was my father's name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what the general's Christian name was. However, I have no doubt that he had one. The general was a bit of an eccentric, I admit, but that was only in later years, and that was a result of the climate of India. And his marriage. Oh, and indigestion. And other things of that nature.
Algy, can't you remember what our father, the general's name was?
Oh, my dear boy, we were never on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear on the army list of period, correct, Aunt Augusta?
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. But I have no doubt in my mind that his name would appear in any military directory.
I have the directory here. Generals beginning with the letter M. Malum, Maxbom, Magley. Oh, what ghastly names they have. Malburon, Manby, Manwood. Oh, thank heavens these aren't my names. Marksby, Mixby, Mobs, Moncrief. General, 1869, Christian names, Ernest, John. Oh, I had always told you that my name was Ernest, and it is Ernest after all.
Yes! I remember that the general was called Ernest! Oh, I knew I had some particular reason for disliking that name.
Ernest, my own Ernest! I felt from the very first that you could have no other name.
Oh, my own darling Gwendolyn. Oh, it is a terrible thing for a man to find out that his entire life he's been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you ever forgive me?
I can, for I feel you are sure to change.
Oh, my own darling Gwendolyn.
Letitia Prism!
Oh, Frederick Chasuble, at last.
Cecily, at last.
Oh, Algie, at last.
Gwendolyn, at last.
My nephew! You seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I've now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.
Lane is played by Diego La Camera.
John Ernest Moncrief, played by Isaac Pendleton.
Gwendolyn Bracknell, played by Gabriela Santiago.
Algernon Moncrief, played by Orrin Rothwell.
Hello, Cecily Cardew is played by Ulisa Gonzalez Peña.
Lady Bracknell, played by Maximus Lianos.
Reverend Frederick Chasuble, played by Lucas Kuyumjian.
Miss Prism, played by Megan Winberg.
Merriman, played by Babak Davoudi.